So much, Amos, for joining us this morning. Well, the NSE 20 share index turned higher last week and really for the most part of this week managing to hold on to that momentum. Do you share the sentiment that this is the beginning of a sustainable uptick on the Kenyan market scene?
Yeah, Alicia, in the past week you've seen most of the companies actually losing on value within the past 2 weeks, but after that, we actually saw some of these companies actually bottom out, and we're seeing actually more demand coming in for some of the counters. For example, we're seeing a lot of demand coming in for Standard Chartered in light of the rights issue to raise funds to acquire Barclays custody. So you're seeing a lot of demand coming in on that counter. We're also seeing a lot of demand coming in for companies like Housing Finance in light of their bond issue. They want to raise about 10 billion, which will actually boost their balance sheet in terms of how much money they can give in terms of mortgages. We're actually seeing a lot of demand coming in for these particular counters. Safaricom, we've seen it actually hold at levels of about 470, 480. So definitely, I think we actually expect to see most of these counters actually pick up during the coming weeks.
Well, of course, over the recent past, we've had a lot of attention being focused on the industrial sector as a whole. Many saying that interest is being directed in that direction. Of course, to bear in mind, though, is that banks are restricted from holding bank equity and hence their bias for industrial counters. So without that restriction at play, does the banking sector trump or does favor still sway towards the industrial segment?
No, I think at the moment the interest is swaying towards the banking sector. We're actually waiting for some of the results that should come in from the banks, and actually quite fantastic results that we expect from these banks. And we're actually seeing a bit of demand coming in on the industrial sector. Companies like breweries, we saw a bit of demand on it. At River Mining, we saw also a bit of price gains. In fact, at River Mining is trading at its highest level it's ever traded since listing. So definitely we are seeing a bit of slight demand on the industrial side, but most of the demand is actually shifted on the financial and banking sector. Companies like Centum, we are seeing it moving from levels of about 22 to right now 24.50. A lot of demand coming in for that counter. Same thing as I said earlier, Barclays, actually seeing also Barclays actually moving up also. Levels of what we saw it trading at lows of about 62. Yesterday we saw it picking up levels of about 66. A lot of demand, particularly from not only from local individuals, but also from foreign investors coming in. So we may actually see the sector that's actually pushing the market right now is actually the financial sector.
Yeah, well, so we may well then see some pretty strong sector rotation come back into the play, away from industrials, once more into the banks, of course, as those earnings come to the fore. In the meantime, Mumia's Sugar in the industrial space also trading cum dividend witnessed increased activity yesterday as investors accumulated on the price dip. We know that the company released full year numbers showing a 2.3% dip in PAT. What are you making of Mumia's Sugar right now? Because a sugar business aside, this is a business that is diverse in that it has exposure to ethanol as well.
The main reason why we saw actually a price dip in Mumias is because actually investors are expecting a lot more in terms of profits from the company, considering that half year the results were up by what, about 400-500%, and then at the end of the year actually profits dipped by now 2%, which was actually a bit on the low side. So we saw investors actually coming in take profits on the stock because it went to highs of about 15 shillings. So right now it's trading about 12 shillings 50, 12 shillings 40. We're actually seeing investors coming in again and looking at how much the company is paying in terms of dividends and how much gain is the company still has to make. And also in terms of that, the company also went ahead and actually acquired some borrowing, mainly to boost the production on ethanol and also in power generation. So going forward, we may actually see them actually reporting good results at the end of the half year and the end of the year. So we're actually seeing a lot of investors coming in to actually take advantage of the prices at the moment. Actually, at these levels, I think it's actually a good buy for me, because if it actually moves up to highs of about 15, 16 shillings, that's actually a gain of about 3-4 shillings, which actually is substantial for an investor.